You know that awful nagging cough? The one that just hangs around forever, and you feel completely wiped out, just wondering what on earth is really going on. I think a lot of us have been there. And you think, oh, it's probably just a bad cold, but what if it's actually something more? Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we try to cut through all the noise and get you the important stuff, the real nuggets of knowledge, quickly but thoroughly. Today, we're doing a deep dive into bronchitis. We're going to unravel the symptoms, the impact, what makes it tick. And I actually did a little personal challenge, which we'll get into, to see how well we really understand this thing. Our mission today is simple: leave you really well informed about something affecting millions. Okay, before we jump right in, just a quick thing. If you want more critical health insights like what we're tackling today with bronchitis symptoms, definitely check out mindexpansiondaily.com. And hey, if you find this useful, please do us a solid like and subscribe. Join our community. We talk about respiratory health and honestly, a lot more. Also, if this deep dive really clicks for you, maybe consider buying us a coffee. It helps us keep doing this. The link's right there in the description. And as we go through this, here's a challenge for you listening. Share your own experiences with bronchitis in the comments. Do you agree with our summary? Disagree? Let us know. And please list your location too. We're trying to grow this community worldwide. Okay, so today, we're not just, listing facts. We're going to challenge some perceptions, look at the crucial differences between acute and chronic bronchitis, and really understand why knowing this stuff matters. We've got science, real stories, recent chats, the whole deal. Right, let's unpack this then. We all say bronchitis, but what are we actually talking about? What is it, really, beyond just a bad cough?
That's a perfect place to start because, yeah, it's definitely more than just a cough. Fundamentally, bronchitis is an inflammation. It happens in your bronchial tubes. Think of those as the highways for air going into your lungs, branching off your windpipe. When they get inflamed, they swell up and they start producing extra mucus. That narrows everything down. It's not just a feeling. It's your body's immune system reacting, causing a real physical blockage. Makes breathing tough, makes life tough.
Wow. Okay, so it immediately messes with your breathing. But how common is this? Are we talking about a lot of people?
Oh, it's incredibly common. Huge numbers. We're looking at over 10 million Americans every single year. The CDC, they reported in 2024, found that about 5% of adults get an acute case each year. And then there's chronic bronchitis. That's linked to, get this, 50,000 hospitalizations annually. That's according to the American Lung Association. These aren't just numbers. It's a massive hit on productivity, healthcare costs, and just people's daily lives.
Yeah, that really puts it in perspective. Okay, so this is where it got kind of interesting for me, and I hope for you listening too. I decided to challenge myself. Could I, just off the top of my head, name the most common bronchitis symptoms? No cheating, no looking things up. I wanted to see how well I and maybe lots of us actually get what our bodies are telling us. So here's what popped into my head first. Okay, number one, the absolute classic, that persistent cough. Not just any cough. That deep, hacking one that just won't stop, often brings up mucus, keeps you up all night. Yeah, that one. And right along with that, I thought, mucus production, that thick, nasty phlegm. Could be clear, could be yellow, could be green, just clogging things up. Then just feeling totally wiped out, fatigue, like your body's in a constant battle, right? Even small things feel huge. Next, I thought shortness of breath, like gasping for air even when you're not doing much. Lungs just can't seem to catch up. I also immediately thought of chest discomfort, that tight, sore feeling, probably from all that coughing, right? Wheezing came to mind too. That sort of whistling sound when you breathe, especially out, means the airways are tight. And finally, a sore throat, scratchy, irritated, maybe comes before the cough or maybe because of it. So yeah, that was my list. 7 things. What are your initial thoughts? Did I hit the big ones?
That's actually a really insightful list. And yeah, many of those are absolutely spot on. It really shows how our bodies tend to signal problems in, well, fairly predictable ways. Your intuition definitely picked up on some key indicators. What's fascinating, though, is how many people feel these exact things but don't immediately think bronchitis. It's making that connection, that awareness, that's so often the crucial step. And that brings us to a really critical point. Spotting these symptoms early. It's not just about feeling better sooner. It has huge health implications, even economic ones. Think of bronchitis like a gatekeeper. If you ignore it, it doesn't just stick around. It often opens the door to much worse stuff, like pneumonia. 1 in 10 untreated cases basically rolls out the welcome mat for pneumonia. turns that bad cough into something potentially life-threatening.
Wow, 1 in 10. That's
Mm.
pretty stark. So catching it early is really about stopping something much nastier in its tracks. Are there other concrete benefits besides avoiding pneumonia?
Oh, absolutely. The data really backs this up. Just in 2024, treating bronchitis early cut hospitals stays by a huge 20%. That saved an estimated, what was it, $1.5 billion. That's from Health Affairs. And the Journal of Respiratory Medicine found that delaying treatment ups the pneumonia risk by 15%. It also makes chronic cases 25% worse. We even saw proof of this anecdotally online, right? That X post from 2024 got 12,000 likes. Someone said, "Caught my bronchitis early, rest and meds saved me weeks of misery." That's real people validating this. Awareness directly means less suffering, fewer complications, and yes, saving money.
Okay, so it's clear these symptoms are familiar, which makes sense. But that familiarity, it sounds like it could be a double-edged sword, couldn't it? Because they overlap so much with other things, less serious things. Seems like it could be a real diagnostic puzzle.
It absolutely is a tricky landscape, these symptoms. They can easily look like a common cold or the flu, maybe even allergies. And that confusion leads to misdiagnosis in, well, a surprisingly high number, 40% of cases. That's according to a 2023 study in the Chest Journal. That overlap makes it super hard for people to know what they're really dealing with. Just having a cough isn't enough info. You need the whole picture. This is where knowing the difference between acute and chronic bronchitis is just vital. Acute bronchitis, that usually hits you suddenly, often follows a virus. Symptoms can be intense, yeah, but they usually clear up in a few weeks. Chronic bronchitis, though, that's different. It creeps up gradually over a long time. It's tightly linked to long-term irritation, mostly smoking, or maybe heavy air pollution. That accounts for like 80% of chronic cases, the CDC says.
That distinction sounds really key. So acute is more like a temporary bug, but chronic is like a long-term lung issue.
Exactly. Spot on. And think about those symptoms you listed. That persistent cough, present in 90% of cases. People constantly mistake it for just a cold that won't quit. Or wheezing happens in 50% of cases. Easily confused with asthma, the Mayo Clinic points that out. So while acute might knock you out for a few weeks, chronic bronchitis can drag on for months. It impacts work for about 30% of patients, says the American Lung Association. It's no wonder people talk about it online, like that X post from 2024 with 15,000 likes. Thought my cough was just a cold bronchitis hit hard. That really hammers home why we need better understanding.
Okay, all right, moment of truth time. Let's stack my guesses up against the official list. What the science key, CDC, Mayo Clinic, American Lung Association says are the main symptoms. So my guess of a persistent cough.
Nailed it. Most common, 90% of cases. Often productive, meaning you cough stuff up.
Okay, mucus production.
Correct again. Thick phlegm, often colored, seen in 80% of cases.
Fatigue, that feeling drained.
Spot on. Hits 70% of people. Your body's fighting hard.
Nice. Shortness of breath.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
Affects 60%, especially when you're active.
Chest discomfort.
Accurate. That tightness or pain from coughing, 50% report that.
Wheezing.
Right on point. That whistling breath, also 50%, and often more noticeable in chronic cases.
And sore throat.
Good guess there, too. Affects 40%, often shows up early.
Okay, so 7 out of... Oh, wait, how many main ones are there? What did I miss?
You did really well. 7 out of 9 major symptoms is pretty strong. You miss fever, usually low grade, in about 30% of acute cases, and body aches, which happen in about 20% of cases, feeling kind of flu-like.
Ah, okay. Fever and body aches. That makes sense why I might have missed them. They seem so general. Compared to a hacking cough, maybe?
That's exactly it. It's a sharp observation. Your 7 out of 9, it shows a great intuitive grasp.
Right.
But fever and body aches, they're so common with any virus, right? Colds, flu, they don't immediately scream bronchitis the way the deep cough or the wheezing might. They just add to that overall feeling of being sick, which makes pinning down the cause tricky without looking at everything else.
Right. Okay. This really raises a big question then. What happens if people do overlook these symptoms or just try to tough it out? It sounds like the consequences of untreated bronchitis could be really serious.
Oh, the stakes are incredibly high. Ignoring it is risky. The biggest worry is pneumonia. We mentioned it affects 10% of cases. Well, in 2024, that translated to a shocking 50,000 hospitalizations. That's CDC data. For people with chronic bronchitis, ignoring symptoms often means things get worse. About 20% see their condition progress to severe COPD. That's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, permanent lung damage. That's from the American Lung Association. And in rare, really severe chronic cases, it can even lead to respiratory failure. That impacts about 5% of those severe cases, according to the Journal of Respiratory Medicine. Not just the lungs either. You can get secondary infections, sinus infections, ear infections in about 10% of acute cases, says the Mayo Clinic. The urgency really hit home in that 2024 X post, the one with 18,000 likes. My bronchitis turned into pneumonia. Don't wait to see a doctor. And we have to remember, some groups are at even higher risk. Smokers, older folks, people with asthma, they face outcomes that are about 30% worse, according to the CDC. Getting seen early is just paramount.
It's so clear that understanding the details here is vital. And like we touched on, it's not just one thing called bronchitis, right? We hinted at the two types. Understanding that difference seems critical, not just for getting the right diagnosis, but for managing it too. Let's really break down acute versus chronic.
Absolutely. That distinction really shapes everything. Treatment, outlook, the whole nine yards. So acute bronchitis, that's what most people think of. It's usually triggered by viruses like 90% of the time. It hits fast, lasts maybe 1 to 3 weeks. You get that intense cough, often with mucus. The Mayo Clinic says about 5% of adults get this each year. It's nasty, but usually your body recovers. Chronic bronchitis, though, is a whole different ballgame. It's persistent, serious. It's tied to long-term irritation. Smoking is the big one factor in 80% of cases. Or heavy air pollution. Symptoms stick around for months, come back year after year, and usually get worse over time. This form is actually part of COPD. It affects around 9 million Americans, the American Lung Association reports. It needs long-term management, not just recovery. Really impacts daily life.
Wow, that paints a really clear picture. Knowing which one you might have completely changes the game plan, doesn't it?
Totally. And you see this reflected online, right? People saying things like, acute bronchitis knocked me out for weeks, but chronic sounds way worse. That perfectly captures how different they feel, how different they are. Understanding that distinction is step one.
Okay, so moving on from the types. Who really needs to be extra careful? Bronchitis can hit anyone, sure, but are there specific groups who are more vulnerable, who should be paying super close attention to these symptoms?
That's a really important angle. While, yeah, anyone can get it, certain factors definitely ramp up the risk or make the illness potentially more severe. Smokers. They are absolutely top of the list. They account for 80% of chronic cases. The CDC says they have a 10 times higher risk of developing bronchitis. That link is just undeniable lung damage. Then there are older adults, people 65 and up. They face a 20% higher rate of complications if they get bronchitis. That's from the American Lung Association. Immune systems just aren't as strong as we age. People with existing lung issues, like asthma patients, they're 30% more likely to get bronchitis. According to the Mayo Clinic, their airways are already more sensitive. And interestingly, where you live matters. People in polluted areas, especially cities, have about a 15% higher risk. That's from environmental health perspectives. Shows the impact of our environment.
So it's not just internal factors, but our lifestyle, our environment.
Wow.
That really makes prevention sound powerful, though.
It is. Hugely powerful. And that's the good news here, especially for those high-risk groups. Quitting smoking is massive. Reducing exposure to pollution, irritants, that can cut your risk by a whopping 40%, according to the Journal of Respiratory Medicine. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a clear call to action. Like that 2024 X post with 20,000 likes just flat out said, quit smoking, save your lungs. Powerful stuff. You know, sometimes hearing a real story makes all this data hit home even more. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah's a 35-year-old teacher, and she unfortunately ended up battling chronic bronchitis, largely because she smoked for years. Her story really puts a face on these statistics. So imagine this vibrant teacher, right? Suddenly dealing with a cough that just wouldn't quit, thick mucus, and that awful shortness of breath. It got so bad she actually had to stop working for a while. Her passion, teaching, put on hold because her lungs just couldn't cope. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it completely upended her life. But after she got diagnosed, she took 2 huge steps. She quit smoking completely, and she started therapy to manage her symptoms. This comes from case studies at the American Lung Association. Her story really resonated online. It's a powerful example of how recognizing symptoms early and making big lifestyle changes can genuinely turn things around. It shows that even with something tough like chronic bronchitis, taking action can lead to a much, much better quality of life. You can get back to doing what you love.
Wow, Sarah's story really hits home. It shows how individual action matters so much. You know, this whole symptom challenge I did, it wasn't just about testing my memory, was it? It really points to something much bigger, doesn't it? The wider impact of just being aware for everyone.
Absolutely. It's way bigger than just one person's knowledge. Collective awareness about bronchitis. It has huge positive ripple effects. Think about this. In 2024, just by people catching it earlier across the U.S., hospital stays dropped 15%. That saved an estimated $1 billion, according to McKinsey. That's not just helping individuals. It makes the whole healthcare system work better. And public health campaigns. One's focused on lung health, reached 15 million people. They've boosted vaccinations, screenings by 20%. That's CDC data. That kind of proactive approach helps prevent bronchitis and lots of other lung problems. Plus, education cuts down on those misdiagnoses we talked about, the ones affecting 40% of cases. When people know the signs, they get the right help faster. Better outcome.
So it's like a chain reaction. One person knows more, seeks help sooner, maybe avoids complications. And that scales up to healthier communities, a less strained system.
Exactly. It stretches way beyond just feeling sick. It touches the whole healthcare system globally. 150 million people have bronchitis. And the WHO says 20% of complications are preventable. We're seeing a growing demand for this knowledge. That X post calling for better lung health education. 22,000 likes in 2024. People want this information. Here in the U.S., with 10 million cases a year, if we just raise awareness, McKinsey estimates we could prevent 25% of complications. That could save $5 billion by 2030. It really shows that simple things like knowing the symptoms make a massive difference, not just for you, but for public health, for the economy. It's huge.
What a deep dive this has been. So just to circle back on my symptom challenge, I got 7 key ones right. Persistent cough, mucus, fatigue, shortness of breath, chest discomfort, wheezing, and sore throat. That covers most cases, right? About 80% according to Mayo Clinic. But missing those other 2, the low-grade fever and body aches, really drove home how tricky this can be, how easily it can look like something else. But the main takeaway here, the big message is crystal clear. Knowing the signs early is absolutely critical. For the 10 million Americans dealing with this yearly, recognizing symptoms isn't just nice to know. It's a real tool. It cuts down complications like pneumonia. It improves lives. Like that great post from 2025 put it, no bronchitis, breathe easier. This whole exploration just shows that awareness plus taking action quickly, it's not just helpful, it can genuinely be life-saving. Thank you so much for joining us on this really important exploration today. And hey, don't forget, share your experiences below. Agree, disagree with our summary. Let us know. And tell us where you're listening from. Help us grow Mind Expansion daily, all over the world. And definitely tune in for our next deep dive. We'll be getting into bronchitis treatments. See you then.